It's the Exit 36 podcast, and we're sharing the knowledge. Whatever we have knowledge on, or whoever we could get on the podcast, we just bring them on that they share their knowledge. Sometimes you might disagree with what somebody have to say, but sometimes more than one ways to do something. So because you know how to do it one way, that don't necessarily mean there's not another way to do it. So that's part of the reason why we do these podcasts. Try to get other people on here from time to time. That way we could share the knowledge of what we know, share what they know, and you just siphon through everything you hear and see what's the best route for you to go. There's no wrong way or no right way, and there's no one way to do it. So right now, what I'm going to touch on is when it comes to leasing on to a carrier. I see a lot of questions about leasing on to a carrier as far as the deductions go. Now when you're looking on the deductions, first of all, when you lease on to a carrier, you need to have a contract. That contract, basically a lease agreement between you and the carrier. It's kind of a contract, but most people look on it like a lease agreement. And a lot of times it's an open-end lease agreement, which means you could cancel that lease at any time. Some carriers have stipulations in there as far as how long you've been with them. If you cancel, they might charge you for certain things like the Qualcomm install, the drug test, if they had paid for the drug test when you came on, the DOT inspection, stuff like that. So make sure you read your lease agreement when you get with these carriers that you're planning a lease onto, just in case they have stipulations in there that you gotta pay for certain things if you leave within a certain amount of time. Now the reason I decided to touch on this subject, I came across somebody the other day and they were asking about a lease agreement. They're asking, can a carrier take a percentage of your layover or detention pay if you're a lease or owner up, basically. Schneider consider their owner ops as ICs. A lot of companies just consider you as an owner op. Some people consider you as a lease op. Whatever it is, it's basically the same thing. When you lease onto a carrier, they just have different names for it, but it's all the same thing. So his question was, can the carrier take a percentage of your layover or detention pay? Now, as far as the answer to that question, it's yes and no. And the reason it's yes and no, because it depends if it's in your lease agreement with them. Your lease agreement should cover all that stuff right there. Who pays for, basically what percentage they're paying you, what insurance you're responsible for, what insurance they're responsible for, when it comes to layover pay, when it comes to driver assist on deliveries, when it comes to detention pay, stuff like that. All that needs to be in your contract with that carrier. Now, some of them might have it stated that you get 100%, basically like fuel surcharge. That also needs to be in there. A lot of carriers will tell you you get 100% of the fuel surcharge. A lot of carriers will tell you you get 100% of your fuel surcharge. But then you have some carriers out there that add their fuel surcharge in whatever the truck make for the week. So if you run a load that pays $2,000 and you have $300 fuel surcharge on top of that $2,000, which makes it $2,300, you have some carriers that will take their percentage of the whole $2,300, and then you have some carriers that will take their percentage of just the line haul. So that's why you need to ask. That's why you need that stuff in your contract with that carrier in your lease agreement that tell you what exactly you get and what they get. Now, when it comes down to it, man, make sure you get everything in your lease agreement. Everything the carrier could charge you for, or everything you're responsible for insurance, repairs, whatever it is. Make sure it's in your lease agreement with that carrier.